Welcome back to A Moment in History. I'm Seth Udinsky. Well, as we travel through history, let's take a brief stop in the early 19th century and explore the accounts of the man who would serve as the 5th president of the United States of America. He earned the title of the last founding father to serve as president, and his administration would carry influence over the foundations that would be laid for the growth of the nation later in the 19th century, especially from a perspective of power. He was also faced with the difficult task of strengthening a nation that was becoming increasingly divided over the issue of slavery. He was James Monroe, the last of the founding fathers to preside over the United States. Well, Monroe was born in Virginia in 1758, and he was a young veteran of the American War for Independence. And after the American victory, he joined in the political sphere as a young advocate for Thomas Jefferson's faction of political ideology. Now, he would join the United States Senate in the year 1790, and we have to remember Jefferson's political leanings tended toward a French style of government as opposed to an English style. So it's no surprise that Monroe would then serve as the United States ambassador to France from 1794 to 1796. Now, he would become a popular choice for president when he ran in 1816, and he would win the vote. He effectively played the political game of appeasing various factions in the United States at a time when, as we said earlier, the country was heavily disunified based on state and region. His cabinet members included the radically pro-slavery John C. Calhoun, but it also included the northern son of a former president, John Quincy Adams. So Monroe set a precedent for future American politics to largely stay out of European conflicts in the Old World, except when the Old World powers started to reach their tentacles across the ocean to try to grab from the pot of the American lands. So as such, Monroe authored a tract that became known to this day as the Monroe Doctrine, which essentially called for all European powers to keep their sticky paws off of colonizing the lands in the American continent. And he wrote this actually in that document. He said, "The American continents, by the free and independent condition which they have assumed and maintain, are henceforth not to be considered as subjects for future colonization by any European power." Now, Monroe was once praised by a woman who met him as such, saying this, quote, "He is tall and well-formed, his dress well in the old style, his manner was quiet and dignified. From the frank, honest expression of his eye, I think he well deserves the encomium passed upon him by the great Jefferson." Some high words indeed. Well, Monroe died in 1831, 1 year after his wife Elizabeth, with whom he'd been married for 44 years. Thanks so much for joining me once again for A Moment in History.